Hey everyone, welcome to our Uncovering the News podcast at NBC 10 Boston. I'm going to be your host. My name is Matt Fortin. I'm a digital journalist here at NBC 10 Boston. And today we're going to have an interesting conversation about alcohol, dry January, our health, and how we socialize with each other. And we're going to bring on two amazing guests to help us have that conversation today. We're going to be joined by Grant Welker, a business reporter for the Boston Business Journal, as well as Dr. Olivera Bogunovic, and she is the Associate Program Director for the Mass General Brigham Addiction Psychiatry Fellowship. So we're super happy to have our two guests with us today. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this conversation on Uncovering the News.
Thanks for the invitation.
Awesome. All right. Well, Dr. Bogunovic, I want to start with you a little bit to lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about today. So I know that you work a lot in recovery and addiction and all those circles. So I want your take on dry January, because this has really become a super popular trend and health trend that people do to start off their new year, to take a break from alcohol. So tell me what you think of it and also how it could help people.
I think that's a great thing that we have started to embrace because, as we all know, for a lot of people who struggle with addiction, so long-term sobriety and abstinence is very difficult. So in a way, setting a smaller goals, smaller steps, like 1 month, and trying it out and trying to see how successful we can be is a good beginning.
January, though, is almost over. So I'm curious what you think people should do when January ends. Is it a time to reevaluate for the rest of the year, or do they just go back to their old habits? What do you think is the best? I know it's up to the individual, but, what's some general guidance?
I mean, January, as you said, is almost over. So, the beginnings are always very difficult. Changing behaviors are difficult, and it takes time to implement the changes in the behavior. And at this point, we're 3 weeks into January. People who stop drinking sometimes start to feel better physically, emotionally. And at this point, it's time to reevaluate. Do we continue because we made it through 3 weeks? And then what are the next steps?
So, Grant and I were on the phone last night, and we were talking a little bit about, Grant has a great perspective on a lot of trends because he covers business a lot. And, we were talking about how there does seem to be a lot of anecdotal conversation, just that a lot of people at this time are thinking about drinking less or even going sober. I see a lot referred to online as sober curious. So I want to get your perspective on that, Grant, first, but I want to hear one more time from Dr. Bogunovic on that. What do you think is sparking this kind of broader interest in people saying, maybe this isn't good for me? And yeah, what do you think is behind that kind of broader public evaluation on alcohol?
I think we're hearing it a lot in the news, a lot of research, less stigma about addressing certain issues. So I think it's a great beginning that is starting to evolve in something different. As you pointed out, being sober sparks some curiosity. And I think that with the idea of dry January, people feeling a little bit better, they're evaluating their habits and really everybody's trying to implement healthy habits.
So, Grant, we were talking yesterday about how some of the businesses and the retailers that you cover, they are trying to adapt to this, this change in public trend where people maybe are looking to not drink. And that's obviously a huge business. So how have businesses kind of shifted gears to accommodate people better who are looking to make a change?
So bars and restaurants are not giving up. They're not seeing this as something where they want to try to chase people to have the same drinking habits they used to. It's more a sense of if people are looking to do mocktails, then they think let's create a great mocktail that has lots of different ingredients and looks and sounds as delicious as an alcoholic cocktail that they may have. At the Boston Business Journal, we're getting news pitches, not just across January, but well before January, about the type of sober curious or dry January offerings that they have, whether it's, again, mocktails or other non-alcoholic choices or other things. And so the fact that it's being talked about so much and that restaurants and bars are not shying away from it, but trying to take advantage of the opportunity if people are going in a different direction for their consumer habits, they want to help that. Every consumer shift in business means there's winners and losers in the business world. And for bars and restaurants that are struggling with lots of different challenges these days, this is just another challenge, but it's also an opportunity there as well.
Yeah. So how do they turn that challenge into an opportunity? I know we mentioned, making sure there are fun drinks that don't have alcohol in it for people who might be looking for that. But I wonder too if there's going to be an evolution of just different socializing spaces. You know what I mean? Because they're maybe more centered around activities or things like that. Because a bar inherently is centered around drinking, even if they are serving mocktails. That's kind of the purpose of a bar, to go and drink. So I wonder if there's going to be, business opportunity to look at, again, activities or something different to kind of frame a socializing space around.
Yeah, when we're seeing that already in the retail world, there are more options for people to join together with others, whether it's the 21 plus crowd or others, with things that are called experiential retail. So that's things like think of in the Seaport, there's a putt shack, a mini golf, kind of an adult mini golf, meaning it's kind of an upgrade from what you might remember from anyone's childhood. There's F1 Arcade, which is a racing arcade, but again, kind of with a higher upper scale aspect to it. Or there's the Museum of Ice Cream. There's the Wonder Museum in Downtown Crossing. Again, whether it's 21 plus or not, a lot of people are looking to do things that are beyond going to a bar. The aspect of stigma was just talked about earlier. I think of, I'm going to generalize here a bit, but like maybe I'm not the only one who's binging Mad Men these days, now that it's on HBO. So I'm watching Mad Men again, and this is not the 1960s where everybody is just drinking. Anytime there's a business meeting or other social gathering, people are looking to do it around activities, whether it's at some of these retailers that I mentioned, or just, hey, let's go for a run together, or hang out at someone's house and find something to do there. The thought of, hey, I'm not drinking, whether it's something that's explicitly made clear or not, there's certainly not a stigma around it, and that has implications across the economy, and especially for restaurants and bars.
Yeah. And Dr. Bogunovic, do you have tips for people when it comes to, I know that we're talking about how this is becoming more and more popular to maybe avoid drinking, but I still think I can speak from experience that it is a social thing, and it can be hard to not drink when you're with a crowd of people that are. So, I mean, do you have tips on how to navigate still being social when still a lot of what we do is very alcohol based? How do you make that change?
And you bring up a great point, because people are very concerned. How will they be viewed if they're not drinking? Will everybody think about them in a different way? And just kind of, we mentioned, getting a mocktail, getting a seltzer water with some cranberry or lime is a way to, also socialize. And when people see how much fun they're having actually with not drinking, and other people observing, and that they're able to have a social interaction that can be fun, it becomes a habit, and people no longer even notice it.
I do think that's a big key for a lot of things in life. We tend to think of what we're doing a lot more than other people notice what we're doing. So that is definitely, I think, important to keep in mind. I mean, do you think, what are ways to, we're talking about different businesses that are cropping up that are, activity based. What are some other activities that people can do to maybe put some of their energy toward, instead of having to go out and drink? I know for me, like, exercise is a great way for, if I'm feeling like I have a lot of energy on a weekend, I want to do something, but I want to do something healthy. Exercise has really helped me with that. What are some other things that people can do to kind of channel that energy toward, doctor?
So exercise is part of it. Hiking, going out with a group, going to different museums. Any other social team building activities are very important, and people really feel good when they have fun with social interactions like this.
Yeah. And I wanted to get your take too on something. The federal government recently updated their guidelines on our diet and what the government recommends we eat and how much we eat of things. And one notable part of that was when it came to alcohol, for the first time in decades, they didn't give a hard number on how many drinks is considered safe in terms of daily intake. It historically has been one drink a day for a woman and two for a man is considered safe or moderate drinking. But this recommendation just said they suggest less alcohol optimally for your health. And then you have Dr. Oz, who he is the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and he kind of couched that even further, saying, well, alcohol, ideally you don't drink it, but there is a social lubricant element to it, and there's nothing healthier probably than having fun with friends in a safe way. So it almost muddies the water a little bit. And that's been some of the criticism, people saying that was a little vague. What did you think of that guidance, Doctor?
I think it's very difficult because we like to know the numbers, correct? It makes it easier for us. We know it's easier to adhere if you know it's one drink, half a drink. When it's like vague like this, people really struggle with it. And I think, yes, he did mention that alcohol is a social lubricant, but as we were talking now, people can actually have with this fun other activities also great social interactions. And again, it's just the engaging in it because we're so fearful how people will see us, what will they think about it, but engaging in it and then seeing how much fun we can have will help people engage in moderation or not drinking at all.
I wonder too, I want to get to another point in terms of, I wonder how much cost of living impacts this as well. Because I know that people say, it's mostly they're not drinking for health and wellness reasons. We're seeing that more and more in terms of surveys, especially among Gen Z. There was a recent survey that was done that found that the average age Gen Z says they kind of outgrow their interest in alcohol was 23. And that's that's in contrast to baby boomers who said that their age that they outgrew it was 44. So it's interesting that younger people seem to be losing interest in it sooner. But I wonder, and this is a question for you, Grant, I wonder how much of the cost of living constraint and inflation has to do with people maybe evaluating how they spend their money and wanting to spend it differently.
It has to be a factor. Yeah, even in addition to health or other factors, cocktails or other drinks are not cheap. A night out is not cheap, whether it's alcohol or other, just food and drink more generally. And last year we did a restaurant roundtable with folks in the Boston area, and the idea of mocktails and drinking, whether it's alcohol or just late night going out, came up, and it was described as a real challenge for them of how they kind of go about bringing in. How do you bring in nearly as much revenue when alcohol is usually a large part of it? And on the cost element, that came up as well. And what we heard was that mocktails are usually priced at around the same price as an alcoholic drink because it takes just as long for a bartender to make a mocktail with all the ingredients that go into it. So it's not like getting in some ways, if people want to buy it, if they're not discouraged by the price, it's not like getting a $2 lemonade or a seltzer. So there is that element. There's certainly a night out can be expensive. You're comparing Gen Z to boomers. The cost of living between those two generations could hardly be any more different, especially in the Boston area. I do think that's a challenge. And then just to go back to it's kind of how there's adjustments being made. I didn't want to forget that there's Tilden Cocktails, which is a Boston-based mocktail company founded in 2021. They make mixes for non-alcoholic cocktails, and they've been growing across the area. So there's an opportunity again with each one of these challenges in the market. Anytime there's a disruption, there are opportunities, whether it's kind of replicating that night out, the social lubricant factor that was mentioned. You won't have alcohol in it, but you can still feel like you're imbibing as the way people would have.
Dr. Bogunovic, do you see this as a short-term trend, or do you think that this is a big change long-term that people are going to be drinking less?
I think it's a big long-term trend because, as I said, the short term it's very difficult to start, and once you see that you can do it, it builds up. We just are changing our view about health and engaging in healthy activities. So I do see this as a long-term trend.
Do you have a concern that people, especially Gen Z, are switching alcohol for marijuana?
I mean, that is a concern, again, but there's also cost associated with marijuana. So we'll have to monitor and see.
Yeah, yeah. And Grant, I don't know if you can speak to this, but there is kind of, I believe there was recently an approval made at our state government paving the way for social cannabis use, and that could pave the way for businesses opening where people could gather and smoke pot.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just partaking in your home or somewhere else, but in a social environment. There's absolutely an opportunity there in a lot of places to have a retail use that is similar to going out and getting a drink, except it's partaking in cannabis. It's too soon to know how much that may replace alcohol. I do think it is certainly a long-term trend because it's not just people drinking less at a younger age when they maybe would be more likely to drink, but just how drastically that has gone down. And I think if you don't have that habit, not just in terms of your health, but as a consumer, then it's hard to imagine it picking up later in life. And so you do see opportunities for a lot of companies to shift to that. Not to mention too, there's when it comes to health, there are run clubs and lots of other things that seem to be more popular than ever. But there's also places like Lifetime, the upscale health and fitness center that includes a lot of a social element to it, and they really pitch themselves as a place where people can hang out. So whether it's cannabis on kind of one end of the spectrum or a gym on the other, lots of opportunities for businesses to meet people where they're at and what their preferences are.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, it's important that people socialize, right? Like, you know what I mean? I think that is key for people's wellness, and if it can be done around a healthy activity, that's pretty cool. I got to ask you both, what's your favorite mocktail? If you're going to go out and maybe you don't want to get a drink, what would you go for? I'm a Red Bull guy.
There are many mocktails. I think what I have encountered recently at certain parties, people were becoming very creative, even in restaurants, naming the mocktails by the participants that would come to the events. So I just like all of them.
Yeah, all right. What about you, Grant? What do you go for?
I've been thinking back to my pre-21 days. I'm always a sweets guy, so something like a mudslide would be great. You can have it and it's still really rich in flavor and great. And yeah, I do think it's creative that people come up with all these different combinations. There's no alcohol in it, but they really make it feel like it's a special drink, as if you are ordering a really complex cocktail. It's very cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, they are. I've had some pretty elaborate ones too, but I think there's nothing wrong with the basics. Diet Coke, Red Bull, they'll get you going. Anyways, well, guys, thank you so much. I mean, do you have I'll ask each of you this. I mean, what's your kind of parting thought on this topic in terms of, Grant, I'll start with you. It sounds like this could be a trend that is here to stay. What does that mean for Boston and our establishments and where we gather? I'll start with you.
Yeah, and I think, it does appear to me to be a long-time trend just from our news coverage and talking to folks. I think of, again, in the professional world, maybe this is a little bit colored by watching Mad Men. As I said, it's a fictional TV show, so you can't take too much out of it. But I think of, these days in business, whether you're meeting up with colleagues or with clients or others, those days of meeting at the bar and having a couple of drinks after work are largely gone. And that's aside from remote and hybrid work patterns. That's just even when people are all together in the same spot, it's not, hey, let's go necessarily grab a drink. I think it's similar to how I've done stories in the past looking at how much going golfing still has the same hold on people when you're thinking about wooing a client. And talking to people. For a segment of the population, of course, they still want to go hit the links on a nice day and do that. But a lot of other people find lots of other activities to go to. And it's part of broader shifts within the consumers, whether it's alcohol or not, or other ways to spend their time and their money. And just to note too, just how quickly this shift has happened. Everything changes so quickly these days, it seems, and that's true with consumer actions, and alcohol being really foremost among them.
Yeah, really interesting points, Grant. And Dr. Bogunovic, I want to have your final thoughts now too. And especially I wonder too, your advice for people about when it might be time to, look at your habits around alcohol and maybe decide if it's time to reevaluate. How do you know when it's time to do that?
So it's sometimes very difficult to make the decision yourself, and it often comes from a loved one who notices it first. But when you see that alcohol is actually eroding your life, your professional life, your family life, your social life, it's time to evaluate your relationship with alcohol. Again, making small changes start with the beginning, starting with dry January, and then seeing that actually you are doing well, you're feeling better. And with all those new social opportunities for interaction and also engaging in healthy habits, it's really a good long-term goal that promotes health and your well-being, both physical and emotional as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both, Dr. Bogunovic and Grant, for joining us today to talk about dry January and maybe dry beyond too. Thank you both so much for your input.